inform us, just tell us in the chat or just turn on your microphone. We're gonna start in a minute.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. Um, this is Thea. I'm sure you've known her. Why don't you go and introduce yourself first?
Okay.
You're muted. You're muted.
No, you.
Okay.
Can you
Can you
unmute
unmute
yourself
yourself
first?
first?
Why? You're the start of the show. What?
Okay, guys, to give a clarification of what just happened. So basically, Elang and I are actually in the same place, which is why if both of us are not muted, you can see that the gema of our voices whenever we're talking. Okay, so first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm sorry that I'm wearing a mask, and also Elang is also wearing a mask because we're both outside, as you guys can see. My name is Thea Mutiara Khalifa, and I'm a last year law student from obviously Universitas Indonesia. Today, me and my partner, Adhyaksa, we're going to explain about China, specifically on several topics that you guys might have heard and might have misunderstood about China, or maybe you guys does not know why China is doing this that you guys have been seeing in the news. Okay, without further ado, please share screen.
Hang on, I haven't introduced myself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
first
that's
introduce
good.
I'm not as famous as you. I haven't won HW. Anyhow, hi guys. I am Elang. I am not part of UI Immune Club, although I wish I had been. I'm not part of UI Immune Club. I was almost part, but I missed the initiation. Biggest regret of my adult life. It's such an amazing. It must have been so amazing to be part of such a great organization, right? Anyhow, let me figure out how to share screen. I haven't. Okay, there you go.
Okay, we have introduced ourselves, so I don't think we need to reintroduce ourselves anymore. Today, our main topic is about China. Stealing your data and screwing your country. Those are the things that you might have heard about China because there are many headlines in our life that we have seen about this country. Okay, these are several headlines that you might have seen. First, there's news about the Xinjiang and the Uyghur. Oh, can you mute your microphone? Okay. You might have heard that a lot of Muslims and a lot of minorities are actually detained in Xinjiang in detention camps and are subjected to punishments and also indoctrination. You might have also heard that China is stealing massive amounts of data, not only data of people in the United States, but from all over the world because of TikTok. You might have heard of those things, and you might have also heard about Sanggata Laut Cina Selatan, that is also involving Indonesia, specifically about our exclusive economic zone in the Natuna Sea, and also about Taiwan and China relations, and also about the depth of diplomacy surrounding One Belt, One Road initiative. Now, assuming that kita semua pasti tahu kan Cina itu negara yang sangat impactful, makanya banyak headline seperti ini dan banyak berita-berita seperti ini. Pasti kita mikir bahwa we know one thing or two about China. However, how much do we actually know about China? Nah, sebelum kita benar-benar get into our topic for today, kita mau main dulu sebenarnya untuk ngetes sebenarnya tuh walaupun kita udah tahu banyak headline kayak gini, sebenarnya kita seberapa tahu nih soal China. Nah, pertama-tama kita mau ngajak kalian main Kahoot. Jadi langsung diakses aja kahoot.it untuk pinnya. Elang bisa di chat.
Right, guys. So we'd like to gauge first how much you actually know about the country. So let's play a little game. As you can see, 350K rewards in total. If you guys can, I see that there are more than 50 of us, and so that might be a problem because I think the limit for Kahoot is 50 people. But the link is kahoot.it. The game pin is on screen right now. So you can go ahead and join. I think so. Is it not?
It's only limited for 50 people only, so hurry up and join if you haven't.
We'll be opening the Kahoot lobby until the next minute or so. 17:25, we'll be closing it. Do join us, guys, because the first winner will get OVO or GoPay, 200,000 in OVO or GoPay. Second place will get 100,000, and third place gets 50,000. So try your luck, join us, and let's play some Kahoot.
Okay, 1 more minute, guys, until we start.
Okay, guys, so looks like we've reached 17:25 so now, so we'll be closing the Kahoot for new entrants, and we can start, shall we? Understanding China. How much do you understand about China?
Boleh, boleh. Masih banyak yang donor nih. Raihan karena you're actually muted.
Sorry. The Great Wall of China was built from the Qin dynasty up until the Ming dynasty, which was a time of about 1,000 years. It was built in successive stages. Every dynasty, every king had their own segments, and etc. etc. It was built to keep the Mongols out. They didn't make the Mongols pay for it, just like Trump didn't make the Mexicans pay for it. But it would be nice if they did. Next up, which one of the following neighbors of China is not a US ally? Well done. That was a trick question, guys. Well done for those who answered Taiwan. Japan is a US ally ever since the Second World War. South Korea is also a US ally. They both fought alongside each other during the Korean War. The Philippines was a colony of the United States of America and remains an ally up until this day, even though the current president of the Philippines has been making overtures to China. Taiwan is not a US ally because it's not a country. Next up. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Well done, guys. Well done. Next question, shall we? So how much of the Chinese population live in the red area?
I actually get this one wrong, so if you guys can get it right, okay banget. Only 5.
Well done, those who answered correctly. 94% of the Chinese population live in the red area. China is so big, but most of China is actually very thinly populated. We're talking about places like Xinjiang and Tibet and Inner Mongolia. So even though it's massive, it's many times the land area of Indonesia, most of China is actually very sparsely populated. Congratulations for those who got it right. Next up. Now we're talking about geography. Which of the following rivers did not originate in the Tibetan Plateau?
Cepet juga ya. Apa gara-gara baru lolos SBMPTN?
Salah pertanyaannya.
Pertanyaan SBM. Oh, okay.
Well done, well done. Those who answered Chao Phraya. The Brahmaputra is a river in India and Bangladesh. It originates in Tibet from the Himalayas. So is the Indus. Indus mostly flows through Pakistan, but its origins is actually in China. Its origin is in the Tibetan Plateau. Yangtze is a river in China and it comes from the Tibetan Plateau. The Chao Phraya, however, is a river in Thailand and is nowhere close to Tibet. Well done. Wow, would you look at that? Our old champions have been usurped, has been completely replaced. Final question, guys. Oh, yeah, okay, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. That was my fault. South Korea is the correct answer. China shares a land border with Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Russia, but not South Korea. Yeah, China shares a water border, a maritime border with South Korea, but not a land border. That was my mistake. I think I have to.
Itu jatuh.
Oh,
Udah ini.
Okay, so here, there's a bit of a technical issue actually because of the last question. So we're going to discount the last question entirely, and we're going to base our results who wins the Kahoot from the first 4 questions only, because that was my mistake. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we'll look at the scores later on, and we'll announce who the 3 winners will be. But thank you for participating. So let's go back to our slides, shall we?
No. Okay. So for those, we're going to announce the winner later after we have actually calculated the correct scores in the Uimankot group. We're going to announce it through probably the TND division. But thank you guys for participating. For the first, second, and third winners that will be announced, please send your phone number to the email below and state whether you'd like to be rewarded with GoPay or OVO. So basically, the first winner will get like around how much?
First winner will get 250. Second winner, sorry, 200. Second winner will get 100, and third winner will get 50. So yeah, we will announce the results later on. Okay, so why did we have a game like earlier? Why did we have a Kahoot regarding these kinds of things? You think that these what we were asking was practically useful trivia, right? Useless trivia. I mean, sure, everybody knows that the Great Wall of China was built to prevent incursions, to prevent invasions, and to prevent attacks from the north. But why do we need to care which countries China share a land border with? Why do we need to care where most of China's population live? Why do we need to care about anything that the Kahoot has been asking? Because here's the thing. I'd like to introduce you. Maybe some of you aren't well acquainted with the subject yet. I'd like to introduce you to the almost science, actually. It's a social science, but it's to the field of geopolitics. Geopolitics is the idea that our politics, international relations, and even internal relations can be defined by the geographic realities that a country or a population finds itself in. And geopolitics believes that you cannot ever understand a country unless you understand their geography. Imagine if somebody comes up to you, a foreigner comes up to you. I assume we're all Indonesians here. If anybody doesn't come from Indonesia, then raise your hand, right? But I'm sure if you've heard of this webinar from somewhere, then you have an intense contact with Indonesia anyway. It's just like, let's just say that a foreigner comes up to you and they say, oh, mate, you're from Indonesia. I want to understand more about Indonesia. And then you ask, what do you know about Indonesia? Because there's just so much to say about Indonesia, right? You can tell, there's so much you can tell. Maybe you can say that Indonesia is one of the most linguistically diverse countries in the world. Or you can say that Indonesia is one of the most culturally diverse places on the planet. Or maybe you want to say more about the political makeup of Indonesia, that it's 40% Javanese, 15% Sundanese, etc., etc. Or maybe you want to say that development is very uneven in Indonesia. It's mostly concentrated on Java, whereas all the other islands don't have that much development. You can say all that, but in order to say any of those, you will need to know how much the foreigner knows about Indonesia. Does the foreigner know that Indonesia is an archipelagic nation, for example? Does the foreigner know that Indonesia is a nation of islands, right? Because Indonesia, geographically speaking, is very different from Thailand. Thailand is mostly continental, whereas we're archipelagic. We're made of islands. If, for example, your interlocutor, the foreigner who asks you that he wants to understand Indonesia, if, for example, he says, oh, I didn't know that Indonesia is an archipelagic island. Tell me more. At that point, you feel exasperated. Bloody hell, mate. How can I tell you about Indonesia if you don't even know that Indonesia is an archipelago? What can I tell you about Indonesia if you don't even know that Indonesia has 13,000 islands and 5 major islands? It's hopeless, you know, it's hopeless. So that's the thing. In order to understand a country, you must understand the geography, and you must understand how geography governs the people who live on that place, on that geography. And okay, that's all well and good. If we want to understand China, we have to understand Chinese geography. But why must we understand China? Thea, mind enlightening us a bit?
Why must we understand China? I think we don't even need to actually reiterate why we must understand China, because as we have stated before di awal-awal ya. Coba kita lihat lagi. China affects our lives in so many ways yang kita mungkin nggak nyadar. Mungkin kita pernah dengar kalau misalnya melalui TikTok, misalnya kita menggunakan aplikasi TikTok, data kita diserap. That's only one way China actually affects our life. Misalnya, kalau kalian kita di sini, there's a news about China's historic rights over disputed seas atau sengketa South China Sea. But a lot of people don't actually know that sebenarnya the sengketa South China Sea ini juga melibatkan Indonesia. Kemudian China's growing threat via data diplomacy or One Belt One Road Initiative atau OBOR yang mungkin kalian pernah dengar. It's actually something yang affects masyarakat dunia nggak sih, Lang? Maksudnya kayak China, sorry, I have to lower down my voice because I'm actually outside. Huh? Okay. So basically China affects our life in so many ways, and it's an emerging power, not emerging power ya, bahkan it's a growing power yang setiap harinya semakin besar. Bahkan a lot of people actually predicts that beberapa belas tahun lagi, China's economy might surpass the United States economy, becoming the largest state with the largest economy in the world.
Maybe Thea doesn't need to tell you anymore about why China is important. China is one of the most controversial countries on earth right now. I'm sure most of you already have an opinion about China. Benar nggak sih? Antara Cina nyolong data kita lah, ya kan? Atau Cina nyolong lowongan pekerjaan di Indonesia, ya kan? Tenaga kerja asing yang dari Cina itu datang ke Indonesia, atau Cina nyolong inilah, nyolong itulah, ya kan?
Or maybe the stigmatization about China because of the recent COVID-19 threat yang berasal dari Wuhan. Banyak lah pokoknya. Atau yang tadi as written in the headline, kita bisa lihat ada bintang Uyghur lah yang katanya China mengopres minorities and also Muslims. Banyak lah berita-berita soal China yang beredar. Tapi as we might have understood tadi, melalui game yang tadi, none of us actually knows that much about China. None of us actually gets the questions 100% right? Berarti there's still a lot to know and learn about China. And today, me and Elang are going to actually highlight several cases and several news yang mungkin kita sering dengar, tapi kita sebenarnya nggak tahu kenapa sih China melakukan hal-hal ini. Kenapa sih China melakukan hal-hal yang mungkin terdengarnya bagi kita kayak parah banget deh, itu negara kayak negaranya jahat banget ya kayak. Okay.
Jadi sebenarnya kita kayak di sini we're not looking to change your views on anything. We don't want to make you love China or make you hate China. You can hold on to your own opinion about China. That's good if you have an opinion about China. But we want you to be able to understand why you're holding that opinion. We want you to be able to defend your opinion. So you're not just you're not just reiterating some poppycock you heard online. You actually have a foundation for your beliefs about China. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, you don't have to wait until the question answers. You can just type it in the chat, and we'll just go through it in sequence later on.
Kalau misalnya kalian nggak tahu, Uighur tuh apa sih yang tadi disebutin? Kalau kalian nggak tahu tentang kasus TikTok yang tadi disebutin, apa sih yang disebutkan dengan One Belt One Road? Jangan ragu-ragu buat nanya aja, because takutnya kalau misalnya kalian nggak ngerti kan nanti sampai sananya nggak ngerti kan. Atau apa sih sebenarnya sengketa South China sih, nggak pernah dengar, which is totally fine, karena I know most of you kan baru graduate dari SMA juga kan. And jujur kalau misalnya aku jadi kalian, mungkin aku juga nggak tahu. Gitu. Oke. Let's move on to the first topik yang kita mau bahas. Hari ini kita akan bahas 3 topik ya guys. Oke. Sebenarnya aku mau nanya dong di antara kalian, dari 60 orang ini, kalian pernah dengar apa sih soal Xinjiang atau Uighur? Ada yang bisa enlighten us nggak? Apa yang kalian tahu gitu? Bisa on mic atau enggak lewat.
Ada yang punya pendapat mungkin? Waduh, seperti tidak ada nih, Teh. Ada kurang familiar soal China nih, Teh.
I have
yeah.
an opinion, but I'm not too well educated about it, so I'm sorry if I get something wrong. So, from what I've seen, what I've read, it is a camp that, I don't know, from China's perspective, it seems like they're building that camp to, how should I say it, to avoid terrorism and quote unquote Muslims take over China. So it's like a re-education. But in like Western media, I've read many cases about people not being treated like humans there. They are physically abused. And I've also seen a woman come to court or something like that, and she talked about her experience, and it was terrifying to hear. But I don't really know what's going on apart from those things.
Oke, boleh aku follow up question nggak?
Kenapa Kak?
Boleh aku follow up question nggak?
Okay, hopefully I can answer.
Enggak apa. Kan tadi you said you heard about a woman who came up to a court and explained about her experience within the Xinjiang detainment camps kan. Nah sebenarnya dia bilangnya apa sih yang dia experience di dalam situ?
So she talked about physical abuse that happened to her and her family, if I'm not mistaken, and that she was forced to do something against her religion. But truthfully, I forgot what that specific thing was, but she wasn't comfortable with it. And she was crying the whole time. So I just felt really sorry and for her.
So basically bener banget yang kamu tadi jelasin. So you don't need to be afraid to be wrong, karena what you're saying is actually correct. There are so many news that we might have heard tentang the Xinjiang re-education atau internment camps. So basically, a lot of like Muslims, ethnic Turkic Muslims, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and many minorities are detained in camps. Jadi mereka benar-benar ditahan against their will gitu. Dan di dalam these camps, they are told to, mereka diindoktrinasi lah. Ya, kalau menurut berita yang kita tahu, itu mereka diindoktrinasi menjadi loyal ke China Communist Party, China, and also to Xi Jinping. But not only that, they're also subjected to abuse, kayak yang tadi Amara Beatrice bilang, physical abuse and also emotional abuse. this detainment camps actually started from 2017 sampai sekarang. According to data from many NGOs, by 2018 kalau nggak salah, udah ada kira-kira 1 juta orang yang ditahan di these detainment camps, dan itu tuh dari tahun 2018 aja ya, belum sampai sekarang gitu. Nah, and like I'm pretty sure a lot of Indonesians sudah tahu tentang ini, and like are horrified by the news about the Xinjiang re-education camps. Tapi not so many people actually know about the latar belakang behind these educational camps. Okay. So sebenarnya kenapa sih tiba-tiba ada si detainment camp ini yang dimulai di tahun 2017? Okay, just to give a caveat, me and Elang are not CCP apologists. We are not here to justify what government of China did, but we're here to barely give you a perspective and a background. Jadi sebenarnya sebelum adanya detainment camp di tahun 2017 itu, atau yang kalau hanya kata the government of China, counter extremism training centers, sebenarnya there are a lot of like disputes and like riots between Uyghur and Han Chinese workers. Apa sih Han Chinese workers ini? Han Chinese workers ini adalah basically kalau Indonesia tuh Indonesia asli gitu, orang yang memang penduduk sana aslinya. Following the riots, there are news of Uyghur radicals who are killing dozens of Chinese citizens, while there's a lot of dispute. Dan ini gak cuma oleh Uyghur aja, tapi juga oleh ada Turkish Islamic Party juga. Nah, in responding to these incidents, akhirnya mereka bikin counter extremism training centers itu. Inilah yang menjadi justifikasi dari pemerintah China, bahwa sebenarnya we're just conducting counter extremism training centers aja. Kita sebenarnya kayak trying to correct what was wrong in order to prevent from hal-hal seperti ini from happening again. Nah, tapi sebenarnya kenapa sih kalau misalnya the Xinjiang region is so unstable, kenapa the Chinese government are so keen on controlling it? Kenapa they are so keen on having control over Xinjiang sampai mereka ngedetain the people who had rioted in the region? Nah, Elang will explain more about this. Okay, apparently there was some miscommunication. We will explain about all the issues first, and then like Elang will explain about the politics behind each issue. Okay, now I'm going to proceed to the issue. Okay, the second issue that we'll talk about today is about China-Taiwan relations. Ada yang tahu nggak sih sebenarnya China-Taiwan relations itu sekarang kayak gimana? Bisa on mic, gak usah on camera kayak Amara Beatrice tadi. Ada yang tahu? Neta mungkin?
Yep, I think from what I know ya, kayak nggak tahu sih, aku dengar kayak cerita-cerita dari kayak papaku kakekku gitu kan, kayak Taiwan itu dulu di Taiwan tuh pertama kali dibentuk dari kayak ada kaum-kaum intelektual China yang kemudian kayak melarikan diri ke Taiwan gitu. Jadi kayak emang mereka sekarang terpisah and those sort of things yang jadi kayak ya emang kayak mereka beda banget setahu dari segi pemerintahannya, dari segi keterbukaannya. Tapi kayak itu doang yang aku tahu.
Ini satu hal yang sebenarnya Net kayak how Taiwan was the government of Taiwan was originally formed. Nah, kalian pernah apa yang namanya One China Policy atau Taiwan Independency? Ada yang pernah dengar? One China Policy? So basically kalau misalnya belum ada yang pernah dengar, aku jelasin aja ya. So sebenarnya ada dua perspektif yang berbeda tentang China-Taiwan relations. The first one is One China Policy, which is the policy that Indonesia actually adheres to juga. Indonesia tuh hold One China Policy, yaitu the belief that sebenarnya China dan Taiwan itu adalah satu negara yang sama gitu. Nah, tapi ada juga belief yang kedua, yaitu adalah Taiwan adalah negara yang sendiri, negara independen, otonominya sendiri, sedangkan China is its own separate nation. There are two beliefs. The first one believes that Taiwan is a part of China, and the second belief is the belief that Taiwan and China are two cities and two separate nations. Kenapa sih sebenarnya bisa ada hostility between China and the dispute over Taiwan's independency? Mari kita lihat dari segi. Oke, what happened before? Ini sebenarnya kayak beberapa poin di sini tuh udah sempat dibahas juga ya sama Netang tadi. Oke. Kalian ada yang pernah dengar Sino-Japanese War? Mungkin? Oke, kalau misalnya nggak ada yang pernah dengar, ada yang pernah dengar?
Aku nggak pernah sih sebenarnya.
Oke, so basically dulu Jepang sama Cina tuh di akhir tahun 1800-an, bukan akhir tahun 1800-an sih, sebenarnya di tengah-tengah 1800-an, kalau nggak salah 1840-an, sampai akhirnya 1895, Cina sama Jepang itu pernah perang. Kenapa mereka perang? Mereka itu perang untuk memperebutkan Korea gitu. Nah, tapi pada akhirnya the Qing Dynasty atau the Qing Dynasty yang kalau kalian lihat sini, yaitu pemerintahnya Cina pada saat itu kalah sama Jepang. Pada akhirnya bukannya dapat Korea, tapi mereka malah harus ngasih wilayah Taiwan ke Jepang. Itulah hasil dari Sino-Japanese War. Nah, kemudian status quo was maintained until after the World War II, di mana akhirnya Taiwan itu dibalikin lagi ke Cina. Kenapa Taiwan akhirnya dibalikin ke Cina? Karena as we know, mungkin dari kalau ada yang IPS, nggak harus IPS juga, jadi kayak as we know ya, setelah World War II, Jepang kalah dan Jepang akhirnya harus mengembalikan teritori-teritori yang dia gain dari China. Salah satunya adalah Taiwan. Akhirnya Taiwan dikembalikanlah ke China. Nah, nggak lama kemudian di Cina terjadi civil war antara Chiang Kai-shek dari parti Kuomintang dan partinya Mao Zedong, yaitu Communist Party. Result dari civil war ini adalah kekalahan di sisinya Kuomintang dan kemenangan di sisinya Mao Zedong atau Communist Party. Nah, karena si Chiang Kai-shek ini kalah, akhirnya dia harus pergi. Dia kaburlah si Chiang Kai-shek dari China ke Taiwan. Jadi sebenarnya bahwa sebenarnya ada kaum-kaum intelektual yang lari dari China ke Taiwan. Nah, inilah si Chiang Kai-shek dan kawan-kawannya di Kuomintang. Nah, Chiang Kai-shek yang lari ke Taiwan ini, akhirnya mereka meng-establish suatu government sendiri di sana, walaupun sebenarnya mereka bukan penduduk asli di Taiwan. Mereka meng-establish government sendiri, dan akhirnya the relations between China and Taiwan, jadi seakan-akan mereka udah jadi dua negara yang berbeda gitu. Barulah pada tahun 1980 China mengusulkan nih ke Taiwan, mereka pengen ngerangkul lagi agar Taiwan bersatu lagi dengan China. Ya udah deh, I will give you autonomy. China mau ngasih autonomy asal kita tetap one country, tapi we will give special autonomy juga to regulate your own self gitu. Nah, tapi unfortunately the Taiwan government did not actually agree to that. Dan the people of the Taiwan juga mereka they didn't like the offer of one country two systems. Nah, despite that, pada tahun 1990-an, pada akhirnya relationship antara ROC, Republic of China, yaitu Taiwan, dengan People's Republic of China, yaitu mainland China, akhirnya agak lebih smooth. Dan Taiwan bilang bahwa oke, perang kita dengan China udah kelar. Oke. However, walaupun hubungan antara kedua belah pihak ini lebih baik ya pada tahun 1990-an, there have been no contact between both official governments. Nah, kenapa sih nggak ada kontak antara dua official governments? Ya, karena China juga sebenarnya nggak mau ngakuin kalau misalnya pemerintah Taiwan itu adalah pemerintah yang sah atau legitimate. Makanya mereka nggak pernah kontak-kontakan. Nah, hal ini diperparah sampai pada tahun 2000 dengan electionnya Chen Shui-bian. Nah, Chen Shui-bian ini adalah pemimpin pertama di Taiwan yang nggak datang dari parti Kuomintang. Dia akhirnya di-re-elect di tahun 4. Nah, kenapa si electionnya si Chen Shui-bian itu jadi hal yang problematik? Karena sebenarnya dia itu adalah orang yang sosok yang bisa dibilang dia pro independensi Taiwan. Makanya setelah dia di-re-elect lagi, pada akhirnya China mengeluarkan anti-law. Apa itu anti-secession law? It's basically a law that says that if Taiwan would do things that mengarah ke pemisahan Taiwan dari Cina, kita bisa melakukan hal-hal non-peaceful. Apa yang dimaksud dengan hal-hal peaceful? Itu hal-hal yang bersifat kekerasan atau use of force. Gitu. And the third and the last case atau isu yang kita mau bawa hari ini adalah tentang South China Sea. So basically, ini aku akan jelaskan secara brief aja ya. South China Sea itu adalah suatu area laut yang kita bisa lihat di peta yang ada di samping ini. It is disputed by many countries. Misalnya kan di sini bisa lihat ini adalah area yang diklaim oleh China. Biasa dikenal dengan Nine Dash Line. Juga ada area-area yang diklaim oleh negara-negara lain. Kalau misalnya kalian tahu di sini kita Indonesia juga punya Pulau Natuna yang juga ada sengketa di sini, sedangkan klaimnya China tuh di sini gitu. Kenapa China mau mengklaim over South China Sea? Of course, karena sebenarnya global trade that passes through the South China Sea is actually really big. It comprises of 3.37 trillion US dollars. Dan sebenarnya kalau China mau melakukan kegiatan impor dan perdagangan juga tetap harus pass through South China Sea gitu. Nah, sekarang kita mau ngejelasin satu-satu di isu yang tadi kita udah jelasin. Sebenarnya secara geopolitik itu tuh kenapa sih China misalnya mereka masih mau banget mempertahankan Xinjiang to the point where mereka mau nahan over 1 million people. Kenapa sih sebenarnya China pengen banget dapetin Taiwan. Padahal kalau kita lihat di sini China gede banget, sedangkan Taiwan kecil banget. Dan kenapa China mau banget dapet South China Sea? Don't they have any other routes buat trade mereka? The next part is going to be explained by my partner, Elang Adhyaksa.
For a fantastic overview of the issues that we're facing. Of course, those are not the only issues that we have with China. That's not the only beef we have with China. We have intellectual property disputes, we have trade disputes, etc., etc. But if we discuss each and every single one of those issues, it's going to take forever, won't it? It'll take forever to discuss. So those are 3 issues, but we're going to talk about how we can approach those issues and we can find out what causes those issues. So that even if you have other concerns, even if you have other curiosities about other issues, you can use this approach that we are going to learn about in this general training for you to approach issues. Because who knows, you might be assigned a country, you might be assigned China in your next MUN, right? Or maybe in your next MUN, the power delegate might be China. So it's certainly very useful. Or maybe after you graduate, you'll get to work and you'll be dealing with Chinese customers or Chinese bosses. So it's certainly worth thinking about. All right. So let's play a bit of trivia again, since since I know you guys seem to be doing quite well in the earlier trivia. Can anybody tell me what is the population of China? Can anybody tell me? If nobody's going to tell me, then I'm going to call out a name, right? I'm going to call out a name and I'm going to ask you to answer me. Let's pick from the people who did well in the last discussion. Emir. Emir, are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, is this Emir?
No.
Oh, it's not that. Okay. So it looks like Emir's not here. It's too bad because I think he won the Kahoot earlier, didn't he? I might have to cancel the reward if he doesn't if he doesn't answer me right now.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
There you
I
are.
think I've got
Hi.
a bit trouble with my connection.
Yeah, it's all right. Emir, looks like you're really good at the Kahoot. Can you tell me what the population of China is?
Well, to be honest, I don't actually know how much is the population.
Right? Can you give me a guess?
Berapa aja
But
coba?
like I know for a fact that China has the most population from all countries in the world,
That's right.
but I don't know what's the exact number.
Can you give me a guess?
Around, I don't know, 1,000 billion or something.
1,000 billion. That's an interesting number. Okay. Thanks, Emir. Thank you for your. Is that your final answer? Do you wanna give another? Do you wanna guess?
Well, I mean, can I Google?
No, you can't Google. That's I could Google too, but I decided to ask you. All right, thanks, Emir.
And
Does anybody have a better guess? Maybe Raihan MF.
I don't know precisely, but it's around over 1 billion.
Okay. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Emir, and thank you, Raihan. Those are good estimates. Those are good guesses. That you said that you don't know the precise number. Nobody does. I don't know the precise number either, but I can tell you it's around 1.4 billion people. Can you imagine that? 1.4 billion people. But in Indonesia, the fourth largest country on earth by population, is 260 million. You can do a quick math, and you can easily say that it's 5-6 times as big as ours.
1/7.
1/7 ya? Okay, you're better at math than I am. So we know that it has such a mass population, and 94% live in the area, yang barusan. So what I'm going to do now is that all suffering in the coronavirus pandemic, aren't we? Some of us don't get to travel, but that's all right, because I am going to take you on a tour. Let's go travel, shall we? Who's excited? I'm excited. Let's go travel somewhere. All right. Who says that you can't travel during the pandemic? I beg to differ. Right. So what you're seeing right now is Google Maps. Google Earth, sorry. It's one of my favorite applications in order to learn about international relations. The best way, I think, to understand about a country, one of is to look at it on. This is Google Maps. You can even look at you can open Google Maps whilst you're watching this, so that you can explore with me. So let's take a narration of China, shall we? We know from the Kahoot earlier that most of China's population, 94%, live in Eastern China, right? So if we take a line, it's more or less east of this line, right? Everybody see the line? And I can prove it to you. It might seem unbelievable, 94% living in just a small part of the country, but I can prove it to you. If let's just zoom in here into the Chinese province of Gansu. You see? Mostly desert. It's mostly desert, mostly mountains. I see a town here, Chieyuquan. I see the town of Chieyuquan here. It's loading. We can see that it has a railway line here and a few buildings, few houses. It's lovely. It's a lovely town, you know. very organized grid. But aside from that, there's nothing else. It's deserted. It's mostly mountains and mostly desert. But if we go east of the line, let's just say here, just south of Beijing, we see, oh, would you look at that? Are you seeing this? Look at all those white dots, all of those white dots. Each and every one of those white dots is a town. And these bigger dots are cities. And these big, massive dots, they're major cities. You see? Don't believe me? We can do it. Look at that. Look at all those towns. If we zoom in, you see? Look at all these dots. They're all towns. It's scary, isn't it? There's just that many people living in this area of China. See, this is a town, Liu Tao Chun, Liu Tao Hu Chun. This is Jiling Wang Chun. Jiling Wang Chun. Jiao Menju Zhuang Chun. I think I cocked up the pronunciation there, whatever. Look at all these towns. No matter how far you go, it's full of towns. This is just one part. If we zoom in closer here, say this part, it's also full of towns. It's like looking at the night sky and seeing it full of stars. And you imagine that every one of those dots in the sky is one massive ball of gas, one massive star. And that's the same feeling that I think we're getting here. Every single one of these dots, town, not of one people or one family, in each and every one of these dots. Goodness, just look at it. Look at all these dots. These are all towns. And this is Beijing. This is the capital in the north. This is the Forbidden City. And this is the Tiananmen Square. That's China. But to be precise, that's one part of China. If we look at here, these are all dots, you see? You can even see them from space. This area is what we call the North China Plain. Let me try and make an outline here. This area, right around here, it's triangular in shape. This is what we call the North China Plain. A large part of China's population live in this triangle because it's flat, it's a plain, it's flat land, and it's mostly people live here. It's crisscrossed by a number of rivers, which is why most people live here. Look at that constellation of towns. This is what we call North China. This area is where Beijing is. This is the north. It's also where Tianjin is. This is Shanghai, one of the largest cities in the world, is in this area, in what's called the North China Plain. This is North China. Everywhere you look, it's a town full of people. But if we go a bit further south, the situation changes. This is southern China. We see provinces of Jiangxi, Hunan, Guangdong, Zhejiang, Fujian. We don't see the same thing. Instead, what we see are a few towns here and there. This is a town. This is a town. This is another town. But it's nowhere as dense as the one we see in northern China. Why? Because if we look at here, it's all mountains. You see? These green areas, they're mountains. If we try to go down here and we look at a 3D view, you can see how it's mountainous. See, this whole area is mountainous. This is southern China. Compare it with northern China, the one we just visited, the one full of towns and people. It's so flat. See? Flat as a pancake. That's why so many people live here, because it's so flat. Whereas the south, hills and mountains galore. This is southern China. In southern China, you can find such as Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, etc. If we look here, this is Hong Kong, which is why if you've ever been to Hong Kong, if you've had the fortune of having visited Hong Kong, it's a beautiful city. You can see why it's so mountainous. It's part of southern China, very mountainous. And this area is what we call China proper. Well, they used to call it China proper. This whole area, you see, it's called China. The combination of northern and southern China. This is northern China, the one with the towns and flat area, and southern China, the one with the hills. This is what we call, when people think of China, this is what they usually think of. This part of China, the one with the chubby curve here, you see? Which is why if you look at the Chinese flag, you see 5 stars and the 4 stars are arranged like a curve like that. It's symbolizing this curve right here, the curve in the coastline. And it's this area that is traditionally the center of Chinese civilization. What do we mean by that? Most Chinese dynasties are centered around here, the North China Plain. And once they've conquered the North China Plain, they expand south into southern China. This is where most of China lives. So name a major Chinese city, any major Chinese city. Think of Wuhan, the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe Shanghai or Beijing, Macau, Hong Kong, Macau, Guangzhou, Tianjin. They're all located here. Kalau Indonesia itu punya Jawa. Indonesia itu punya Pulau Jawa, di mana all the population live there, and it's the most developed part of the country. Kalau Cina punya daerah ini. It's a bit wrong to call it China proper, but for the sake of this video, we will call it China proper. And then if we go out of China proper, if we go east of the line that we were talking about earlier, and we move a bit west, sorry, we go out of central China and we see what's called the peripheries, what the Chinese call the peripheries. We see this, the Tibetan plateau, Tibet, Xizang in Chinese. Or we see Xinjiang, which is here. This is the area, Xinjiang. Now, we have talked about why Xinjiang is such a big issue, right? Why is Xinjiang a big issue? Why does China need Xinjiang? Easy. China has historically been a rich country. Ever since, for 6,000 years, China has always been the richest country on the planet. And how does it become so rich? Because it's an agricultural country, sure, because it grows lots of, but also because it trades. It trades a lot, including with Europe. And where is Europe? This is Europe. You see, we see all the countries that we know here. This is Germany, Poland, France, Great Britain. This is Europe. And how does China trade with Europe? How does China trade with Europe? Back then, most trade go overland. So trade caravans would go from China, out of China, and through here, through Xinjiang. Now this is the Gobi Desert. So trade caravans cannot, the Taklamakan Desert. So traders cannot pass this desert. So they usually go up. They go through the north part into the Tian Shan, through Kashgar, and into Central Asia. Bear in mind, we are tracing the path of ancient caravan traders, and that's amazing, isn't it? And then they go from Central Asia. They can either go through Iran or through Kazakhstan into Anatolia, into Turkey, through Constantinople, or what we now know as Istanbul, and into Europe. This is the route of ancient traders. Through this, you may have heard of the Silk Route. This is the Silk Route, going from China through Central Asia to Europe through Constantinople. This is the Silk Road. And because China profits from trade so much, China believes that they need to defend their traders, because if you don't defend the traders, people going through the Silk Road will be robbed, they will face criminals, they will face bandits. So somebody needs to control the area. And that is why China has always been so insistent that Xinjiang is Chinese. It's been a long time. Successive dynasties of China have always tried to control these areas. And now you see why. So next time you consider, why does China need Xinjiang so much? Why is it so brutal in Xinjiang? It's because of this. China believes that it needs Xinjiang, especially maybe you've heard about the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI, One Belt, One Road. This makes Xinjiang an important part of China. You see? So Xinjiang isn't some small, unimportant backwater. It has been the heart of global trade for centuries, and it will continue to be. Now we move on. Why does China need Taiwan? Why does China need Taiwan? Let's look at the map again. It was asked earlier, right? In the Kahoot, which of these countries is not a US ally? And we know, let's widen that a bit so that's more visible. This is Japan. Japan is a US ally. It's American ally, right? So if we draw a line there, Korea is also an American ally, right? Philippines is also an ally. And Taiwan, even though it's not a formal country, it has defense arrangements with America. And so we can safely call it de facto a US ally, right? And if you see here, if you look at this, this white line crosses every country that is a US ally. And you can see that this white line covers most of China's eastern seaboard. So basically, we can see from this map that US allies surrounds China. We see the Philippines in the south. and we see Japan here and South Korea. This is the Okinawa Islands. These are parts of Japan, and the Americans actually have a naval base here somewhere. I don't know where it is precisely. It's got to be somewhere. There it is. The Americans have a naval base here. So practically what we see, China is surrounded by Americans. From Japan to Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines. Imagine if you hate somebody so much, but you happen to live in a neighborhood and you're surrounded by his friends. Let's just say that I hate Thea, for example. I hate Thea, right? She lives far away from me. I don't know where she lives. She lives far away from me. I don't know where she lives, but she's my enemy and I hate her and she hates me. She lives far away, but Neta, who is live next to me in the left of my house, right? And Monic's there too, right? Monic, also Thea's friend, live right next door. So in my to the left and right of my house are two of Thea's friends. And whatever I do, Thea's friends can tell Thea what I'm doing. And I feel insecure because I feel surrounded by Thea's friends. That's what China is feeling right now. It's surrounded by America's allies. But that is that is the status quo. What if, for example, Taiwan isn't a US ally? For example, what happens if Taiwan is not independent? Japan will still be a US ally. That's fine, right? So will Korea and Okinawa too. And so we have reason to believe that the Philippines will remain a US ally. That's fine. But we look here, the line has been cut, right? The line has been cut. There we go. This is what we see. The Chinese now control Taiwan, and the line has been cut. China is no longer surrounded by America. It's still surrounded by Japan and Korea, the Philippines. But it's important that China has a base here. And because China has a base here, it can threaten Okinawa, it can threaten Japan, it can threaten the Philippines. And it has an open access to the Pacific, which is important because if you think about it, the Pacific is such an important ocean, isn't it? You know? Who here knows about climate change? I'm sure everybody here knows about climate change. Now, who here doesn't believe in climate change?
Gak apa guys, kalau ada yang nggak believe in climate change.
Not apa, just answer me. If anybody doesn't believe in climate change or doesn't think that it's a serious enough problem, just tell me.
Biasanya gue ada yang nggak believe in climate change, tapi yang masuk ke kelas terus muncul loh kata jadi kayak berapa? Berapa?
And he's very smart ya Teh. Terus kayak
Mereka tahu deh.
Makanya, ada nggak anyone who doesn't believe in climate change? No? Okay, that's good. That's good.
My brother
Because
climate change.
Oh really?
Yeah, my brother.
oh, really?
But he's not here.
Right, okay. So your brother doesn't believe in climate change. That's okay. I don't believe in climate change either. I'm kidding, guys. I believe in climate change. Climate change. It's real, guys. How do we know it's real? Because sea ice are melting, right?
Yes.
That's been definitively proven. We're losing sea ice in Antarctica. We're losing sea ice in the Arctic. And it's especially serious in the Arctic. It has a special ramifications in the Arctic. Because now that we've lost so much ice, we can expect sea ice in the Arctic to diminish so much that it becomes open for shipping. Have you ever considered that? Climate change affects geopolitics. Climate change affects international relations. How? Geopolitics, which is why it's important to know. We see a route from China to Europe, right? This is the land route from China to Europe. But we also know that there's also a route from China to Europe. So let's just say that there's a Chinese ship leaving China from Guangzhou, right? And let's just say that it's just produced iPhones and it wants to sell them in Paris, for example, right? People in Paris want to buy iPhones. And so the Chinese ship it from Guangzhou. It goes out through the South China Sea, through the Natuna, through our beautiful islands here, and through the very narrow Straits of Malacca. Very narrow. I mean, look at that. It's very narrow, isn't it? The Straits of Malacca and to the open ocean of the Indian Ocean. It passes through the southern tip of India, and it enters the Red Sea through the Gulf of Aden. And as it enters, as it goes through the Gulf of Suez, it goes into the Suez Canal. And the ship goes out into the Mediterranean. And once in the Mediterranean, it crosses the Mediterranean through the southern tip of Italy and through Gibraltar, through the Alboran Sea between the Straits of Gibraltar, between Spain, Gibraltar, and Morocco, and it enters the Atlantic Ocean. And it goes up through the English Channel. Oops. And into the Netherlands, into the port of Rotterdam. This is Rotterdam. Oh, sorry, we missed it actually. This is the port of Rotterdam. And then from Rotterdam, it continues to Paris through land. That is the trip of an iPhone going from Guangzhou to Paris, right? That's global trade right there. But in the future, we can expect another trade route to open from Guangzhou to Paris. Let's follow the trip of another ship. It goes out into the Pacific through the Bering Strait and through the Arctic Ocean. This route is impossible today because it's frozen. But in the future, we can expect it to open soon because of climate change.
Udah tanggal lemas tuh. Belanda itu kan datakannya kan dari daripada laut.
There we go. Now, if we compare the two routes, this is the first route, fishermen. 19.5 meters. This is the current route, the one through India to the Suez Canal and through Indonesia.
19,000.
Yeah, 19,000. Whereas the new route, 15,000. It's much shorter. It's much shorter to take the Arctic route. You can see it in here. See, this is the first route, and this is the second. It's much shorter. And that depends on China controlling Taiwan. If China doesn't control Taiwan, then America can just block off access to the Chinese. There we go, just like that. This is the status quo. which means China will have to go through what's practically waters controlled by America. That means the Americans have a leverage against the Chinese, especially since they will make use of this new trade route. Because here's the thing, if you control the seas, you can always close access to ships. If you control Taiwan and Philippines, off this narrow strait during a conflict, China doesn't want America to have that kind of power. Because if China has that kind of power, that means it has the power over its economy. And that is also the reason why China stakes claim into the South China Sea, just this area, these islands. China believes that this part of the South China Sea belongs to China. It's called the 9-dash line. Maybe you've heard of it. Sorry, it's actually like this. There you go. China believes that everything in this green line belongs to China. There are lots of reasons. One reason is because it's suspected that there's lots of oil in this area. But a more important reason is because of this. Trading routes. This is also a narrow point. In geopolitics, we call it choke point. A choke point is a point where a country is most rawan, most fragile, most threatened, because these narrow points, because another country in the sea, another country can just shut access, in the choke point. This is important because in history, we've seen during the 6-day war between Egypt and Israel, the Egyptians closed the access to the Suez Canal, and as a result, all the ships has to take the long route through Africa, and it costs way more. Which is why China, this is important. This part is important for China because most of its trade goes through this area. How much? What's the value of global trade that goes through this sea? I think Thea mentioned it earlier. A few trillion, like 33 trillion or something like that.
3.37 trillion worth.
3.37 trillion dollars worth.
So it's 80% of their energy and 39.5% of their total trade.
Funny you should say. Can anybody tell me where does most of the world's oil come from? Can anybody tell me where most of the world's oil comes from?
I'm trying to guess. Okay, I don't know. Maybe between Iran or Iraq.
Okay, Iran, Iraq. These are good guesses. Any guesses? Anyone else? Who was that, Thalia?
Nicole.
Can I know it?
Nicole, I'm guessing.
Sorry, what was your name?
Nicole,
I think.
Nicole, okay. Nicole M, was it? Eng, okay.
Yes, like the Avatar.
okay.
Lovely. Can anyone else guess?
I would like to guess.
Okay.
I believe most of the world's oil comes from two nations, the United States and Saudi Arabia.
Very good. Anyone else?
I would like to guess.
Rio atau Ahmad Rifki tadi? Oh ya, Rio tadi.
The oil is come from Russian Federation.
Russia. Okay, good guess.
Ahmad Rifki said Kuwait.
Kuwait.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Rio said
Yes,
Uzbekistan.
Okay. So this is Kuwait, right? This is Iraq. This is Iran. Can everybody see it? This is Kuwait. This is Iraq. This is Iran. Anyone else?
Me probably. Tapi ini versi pastel. Venezuela. Tapi sekarang udah bangkrut.
Venezuela. Very good. Very good. Okay, Venezuela. That's the other side of the country. It's right here. That's Venezuela. This is Venezuela. Okay, those are fantastic guesses. Thank you, everyone. Some of my favorites were Russian Federation, Kuwait, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. Those are answers. The largest producer of oil in the world is actually Saudi Arabia. The largest producer of oil in the world. The second largest producer of oil in the world is, surprisingly, America. America is the second largest producer in the world after Saudi Arabia. But come on, America would never give its oil away to other people, much less to China. So why don't we talk about the countries that we've all guessed earlier? We have Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and I'm quite surprised nobody mentioned the UAE, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. You know, there's also Qatar and Bahrain, but those are very good guesses. Most of the oil in the world comes from this area, the Persian Gulf, and that is also where China got its oil. And how does oil arrive from the Persian Gulf to China? Same way. From the ports of the, let's just say it comes from Port Jebel Ali in Dubai. It goes through the narrow Strait of Hormuz, which is another choke point, down the southern tip of India, and etc. And etc. Same way, Straits of Malacca, South China Sea. This is where the world's oil comes from, and this is China, and it goes through the same way. This the South China Sea. So why does China feel like it? Why does China think that it wants the South China Sea? Because it holds the key to China's economic prosperity. China's trade goes through the South China Sea. China's oil comes from the South China Sea. America is the most powerful country in the world. It has the largest navy in the world. Let's just say that the Chinese got into an ugly fight with the Americans, right? You know what they can do? Okay, I'd like to ask someone. Let's play a game of Risk. Do you guys know the game Risk? It's an old-fashioned game. I think it's a board game.
I actually don't know, so can you please explain?
Right. Game of Risk is a game about geopolitics. So you take positions in countries and you attack other countries. Very fun game, you guys. If you're interested in international relations, you should buy that game. Okay. So let's just say that you're America right now. Okay. Your allies are Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines. But America also has the good relationships with Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, little Singapore right here. The one who can give me the best answer can win 100K in GoPay or over, all right? So let's just say that you're America. What will you do? And you're fighting a war with China. What will you do without the use of force, without attacking China itself? What will you do in order to destroy China, to deprive it of victory? What will you do to make it feel pain? Can anybody answer? Best answer gets 100K.
We're open for any answer, so like, don't be afraid to answer. Even if you think it's dumb, just throw it on the floor.
Yes, go on.
Okay, I'm trying to guess again. I don't know, maybe an embargo because China cares a lot of its trade and its product, and maybe if US is clever enough, they will do that and destroy their economy, I think.
Okay, an embargo, brilliant.
Thank you.
Where will you embargo China? Remember, your allies are Japan, Korea,
Oh, yeah.
Taiwan, Philippines, and you have good relations with Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore.
Where?
How will you embargo China? Looking at this map.
Oh my God. I'm confused with, I think, oh yeah, I forgot I have allies. Okay, maybe we'll go to embargo in South Korea or maybe Japan because it's like the closest one in here.
Okay, so how will you embargo it? How will you draw a line? Here, maybe? Is that how you want to embargo them?
Yes, maybe I'm not so sure about my answer, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your answer, Nicole. Anyone else
You're
want to
welcome,
answer? Anyone else want to answer, maybe? Let's just put Nicole's answer here. Nicole's answer is brown. Embargoing through Japan and South Korea. Anyone else can give me an answer?
You guys, jawaban terbaik jawaban gue
Ya, guys, 100k guys.
I would like to try answering.
Okay.
So perhaps since the United States is allies with quite the number of like countries with territories in the South China Sea, we could put an embargo there. It's either there or the Gulf states, where
Okay.
China produces their oil.
Okay. Where
or
in?
China outsource their oil.
Okay.
Or again, and yeah, there.
Okay. Where in the South China Sea will you put an embargo?
Let's see.
Let's zoom in so that you can see the countries.
I'm not sure. Probably somewhere between either Vietnam or Philippines.
So between Vietnam and the Philippines. Is that your final answer? So roughly something like this, right? Something like this.
I suppose, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. And let's go to your second answer, which was the Middle East. How will you embargo the Chinese in the Middle East?
I would either, I think I do the Straits.
Okay, the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll embargo it like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone can give me a better answer? Nicole and Nyla have given me an answer. Nicole wants to blockade them here. Nyla wants to blockade the Chinese here and here.
Lumayan dapat 100.000.
We allies with Singapore.
Singapore.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's your?
Dan.
Dan. Okay.
I mean, if you ask us allies with Singapore, then we can, embargo them in the Malacca Strait.
Strait of Malacca. Okay, that's an interesting answer. So you want to embargo them in the Strait of Malacca, where it's the...
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think those are good answers. Thank you, Nicole, Nyla, and Dan. Those are all very good answers. Let's go through them one by one. Nicole gave an interesting answer in South Korea and Japan. Although that wouldn't suffocate China's trade with any other countries, it will suffocate China's trade with South Korea and Japan. And Japan is one of the larger trading partners of China. Japan consumes lots of Chinese goods and vice versa. So it will certainly hurt China a lot because Japan and South Korea will not be trading with China. Very good. Nyla's answer is quite interesting. between Vietnam and the Philippines. Although this will be a good place to blockade China, the problem is China actually has naval supremacy. Not naval supremacy. China actually has strong bases here in the South China Sea. So even though America still has a naval supremacy today, it's not very sure that this strategy can work in 20 or 30 years once China actually has a larger navy than America. China is expected to build its navy so that it's even larger than America. Naila, second answer. Which is why there's actually an interesting proposal to build a canal across Thailand. Can you believe that? This area is called the Kra Isthmus, and they want to build a canal here across this line, so that China's ships can go from here through this canal and into the Indian Ocean. Why? Because China is really scared of this. China believes that it is really scared, it is really vulnerable in this little space between Indonesia and Malaysia. This is the Strait of Malacca. And America can easily blockade this area. Why? First, it's narrow. Second, it only harms China mostly, and maybe like a few East Asian countries. But it won't harm the rest of the world, unlike a blockade through the Strait of Hormuz. So those are all very good answers, brilliant answers. But I think the best answer goes to Dan for saying the Strait of Malacca. Would you agree? Yeah, Thea agrees. Congratulations, Dan. Email me your number later on and tell me if you prefer GoPay or OVO, and I'll transfer it over to you. That's it, guys, for geopolitics. That's it for my tour of the world. Fascinating, isn't it? Even though you can't go on holiday during this pandemic, this is a bit of a tour of the world. Now, I hope because of this short general training, I hope you can see why looking at the globe is important. Because by looking at the globe, you can see why countries act the way they do. Why does China want Taiwan so bad? Because of this new trade route across the Arctic. And also because of this, because it feels threatened by America. That's why it wants Taiwan so badly. Why does China care a lot about the South China Sea? Because of this. Its trade routes with the rest of the world, with Europe, and its energy supplies, the green line here. Why is China so strict, so oppressive in Xinjiang? Because of this. They need this route, the Silk Route, to trade between China and Europe overland. This, in case you're wondering, is the route that President Xi Jinping wants to pursue again. Again, wants to be vital. I hope you see the importance of what are the kinds of geographies that a country has, because it can tell you a lot about its relationship with its neighbors and the world at large. So here's my advice to you. Next time you're assigned a country in your next MUN, try look for it in an atlas. Try look for it in a map, on a map. And try to identify where the center of the country is, where most of its population lives. Try to understand how many countries it borders and what its relationships are, and try to understand where it gets its energies from, with which countries does it trade with, does it trade, and try to draw lines like this. Because once you draw lines like this, you can understand the country's motivations. A very interesting quote I had from an old mate of mine is that if you want to understand global affairs, if you want to understand the relationship between countries, imagine them as little children in a kindergarten. Imagine them not as big, mighty, powerful countries with armies. No, think of them as little children in a kindergarten. Think of what they want and what they hate. Maybe they want to be closer with their friends, these certain friends, because they want to trade crayons, for example. Or maybe they hate this other kid, and therefore they will try to outsmart each other. And that is the point of geopolitics. I wish we could go deeper into China, because it's such an interesting country, and there's so many things that people don't know about China. But I hope this provides a good exposition, a good overview about what geopolitics is, what China's geopolitics are, and maybe it can also give you insights about how the world will be in 30, 40, 50, even 100 years from now. Would you like to add anything?
No, I think you have wrapped it up very perfectly. Is there any questions, guys?